I think that adult friendships is, you know how when you're a teenager, everyone's talking about like bullying and cyberbullying. I think that as adults, this adult friendship issue is the next sort of frontier of talking about how do we court friends? How do we build a friendship when it's not romantic? How do we break up with a friendship when it's been too long? And the biggest thing that happens with friendships is they do go stale. And that's a very weird thing to say, but there are people, I'm sure you can think of someone in your life where every time their number pops up on a text message, you're like, oh, it's been a while, I better call them. Or you see them out of convenience or out of location. And I think that those are the kind of friendships that really drain you. There's actually a study that was done on ambivalent relationships.
Yeah, this is so interesting.
Yeah, I'm thinking about ambivalence a lot. So toxic people, we get it. Right? We all understand that we want to get rid of toxic people. That's more obvious. The real danger, I think, is ambivalent relationships. So these ambivalent relationships are the people where either you don't know how you stand with them, so you don't know if they like you or not, and they're also the people where you don't know if you really enjoy hanging out with them or not. Have you ever had that?
Yes.
And you're like, is this going to be fun? Was that fun? Is this fun? And I think those are the ones that take the more energy. There are also the more dangerous ones because they tend to creep in and stay in.
So the whole notion of frenemies I find really, really intriguing. And this is something certainly that I've dealt with in my life. And it was weird to me how until I read that it didn't register why that would be so insidious.
So what the science says, they did a research study with police officers, and they asked police officers to identify the amount of toxic people in their workplace and the amount of ambivalent people. And they found that the police officers who had more ambivalent relationships were sick more often, had less happiness at work, and didn't like their job as much than police officers who had toxic people. Just think about that for a second. And the reason for this is because if you have a toxic person, boundaries are easy. They ask you to go out to lunch and you're like, no thanks, right? Like it's a no thanks. Whereas if an ambivalent person asks you out to lunch or asks you to their birthday party or asks you to work on something, it takes this mental energy where you have this thing where you're like, ooh, like will it be good? Would I rather eat alone at my desk or would I rather have lunch with this person? And when it's not always easy, that's an incredible drain on our emotional energy. And if you are an introvert or an ambivert is someone who is kind of splits between extroversion and introversion, your energy is finite and our mental space is finite. And this is something that I did not realize until much more recently. I thought that mental space was sort of endless, right? You could learn forever. You could think about things forever, but actually we only have a certain amount of mental time every day. And if we're dedicating that to trying to figure out if someone likes us or not, which is a very important thing, we all like to be liked whether we admit it or not, that I think is a waste of mental energy. Why would we want to spend it towards that? And that's why I think ambivalent people are more dangerous.
Do you have a checklist? Because I'm like thinking back to the people that managed to become frenemies in my own life. It's kind of scary how long it took me to be able to put that label on them, to sort of wake up to the fact that either they always were or the relationship had evolved to that.
Like years, right?
Years.
I know. So I don't have a checklist. It's actually just one simple question.
All right, let's hear it.
Are you ever doubting that they're really happy for you?
Wow, that cuts right to the heart of it.
I mean, that's it. And that happens actually quite often. Like, there are these people who make these very passive-aggressive comments where you're like, was that nice or was that mean? If you're ever questioning that, that means they are not truly happy for you. Or if you have a piece of really good news, a really true good friend will mirror and match that excitement with you. Someone who's not as happy for you will come in with dream killer questions. You know dream killers?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Dream killer questions are when they question your success, they doubt the success, they think of all the negatives. And dream killers are not always bad. I have dream killers in my life and I call them when I need someone to poke holes in a business idea. Right? Like I'll pitch them because they're great practice. But I know that they are not the people that I go to when I have something I'm truly excited about. So I think that that's the only question you have to ask yourself. And it might be an inconvenient truth. Like don't answer it off the cuff. Like don't answer it really quickly. Like try to think of all the times in the last 6 months that you've seen them and shared something. Did you feel like they were as happy as you were about your happiness?
Yeah, and this is one of those things that has made a big impact in my life because you can very slowly, especially in business, find yourself in a situation where you don't know who to trust. And I find, and maybe it's the psychic energy, like you were talking about, emotional energy. For me, it became a question of emotional safety, where when I know you're my enemy, I don't feel emotionally vulnerable, oddly enough. Even though I know you may actively be out to get me. Like,
Yeah.
I can handle that.
Yeah.
It's when I'm like giving you my neck, if you will, enough, and every now and then you actually take a swipe at it. And sometimes it's like,
Yeah, that's when you lose sleep.
yeah, like, yes, literally.
And you sit in bed and you rerun all the things they've said or you've said. You worry about all the things that could potentially happen. If you are with someone and they are either they do not mean well for you or they are planning on taking a swipe at your neck, you somehow smell that threat. And even though consciously your brain is going, they didn't say anything, they didn't do anything, their body language is okay, it seems all okay, the other part of your brain, the animal part of your brain, which is firing in fear response or threat response, is going, no, watch out. And that's what keeps you up at night, is your conscious brain wrestling with the unconscious part of your brain. I think that that's when we talk about being psychic or having premonitions, I think that that's actually what's happening. We're smelling or picking up on things that we don't even realize. We don't realize that actually happiness comes in these very, very small moments every day. And actually those are the happiness moments we have to savor. So what I'd highly recommend is for the next few days, sit down and make a chart of everything that you do in your life. Down to making a steaming hot cup of coffee, down to going for a run, down to doing laundry. And then I want you to rank each of those things on how happy they make you. And I don't mean like happiness like euphoric. Sure. I mean like happiness, like content with your life. Like, I am content doing this. I know this sounds crazy, but even like laundry or cooking, something that we often think of as a chore, can provide a certain amount of contentedness if you look at it that way. So I want you to rate all of those skills, and then I want you to count up the number of hours you spend on each of those skills every day. What you'll end up finding is you end up doing what I call happy math. Happy math is basically looking at the fact that we end up spending the majority of our week, 90% of our week, doing tasks that rank as a 1 or 2 or 3, not very happy on the happy scale. And we end up having these really small, once a week moments where we're actually happy. But really they're these small little moments. It's having that amazing cup of coffee or taking in your view from your window or whatever, these little small things. Those minutes add up, and I think it's about slowly hacking how can you add in more and more of those minutes. Here's another kind of tip on the happiness stuff that I just realized would be a really easy one to try. So I talked about these little moments of happiness. There's also these little moments of unhappiness that as humans, we cannot help but infect our entire life. So you know how when you're sitting at a red light and you literally question your entire existence? Has that ever happened anywhere?
Sure.
Yeah. So you're sitting at a red light and you're like, why do I sit in traffic? Why do I drive to work? Why do I do what I work? Why am I doing this? Maybe I should quit my job. Maybe I should move to Hawaii. Maybe I shouldn't have a car. Like, that's like what happens, So one of the hacks that I have found works really well is taking those small moments and turning them into what I call gratitude totems. So a totem is like a symbol or something to remind you of something. So I have a red light by my house that I get stopped at every single day. It doesn't even matter what time of day. And I used to yell at this red light. I would curse at it. And then I realized, wait a minute. Like, this light causes me so much unhappiness. I have such a hard time being grateful. Like, every Oprah magazine ever says, be more grateful. Who has time to be grateful, right? Like, no one has time to do that. But now I have time. So whenever I am stopped at that red light, for the entire red light, I think about every single thing I'm grateful for. And now I get upset if I do not hit it. Because I know that every time I pull up to that red light, I have a minute and a half just to think about all the things I'm grateful for. Check, I got my gratitude off. I feel nice and good. I flipped a very unhappy moment for me that makes me question driving and cars and my life and turned it into something that actually makes me very appreciative.
Vanessa, thank you so much for coming on the show. Guys, let me tell you, this is somebody that you are going to want to dive deeply into. Like I said earlier, when I started the book, I was doing it to make sure that I understood the content so that I could come on and do a great interview. And it so carried me away. I literally wanted to say captivate there, but that seems too obvious. It is literally captivating. The book about becoming captivating will arrest you. It will stop you, because every bit of it, I felt like the book was trying to teach me a lot about other people, but it was teaching me so much about myself. And I am somebody that obsessively thinks about self-awareness and where I'm at and what I understand about myself and my natural impulses and what can be overcome and what's not worth fighting. And this book broke everything down and made it all so easy to understand.